Mr. Brison. According to the Food Counts Halifax Food Assessment, food insecurity is a serious and growing problem in our region. Is this of concern to you and your party? What action do you plan on taking to reverse this trend?
Defending supply management and not diluting it is an important part of food security and jobs and opportunity in rural and small town Nova Scotia. You can negotiate free trade agreements and defend supply management. Previous Liberal and progressive Conservative governments actually did that. But to do that, you have to actually care about supply management or believe in it. And the Reform Party, Stephen Harper and Jerry Ritz and David Morris, who were members of the Reform Party, their policy was against supply management. And the fact is, supply management is important in Hants East, it's important in Nova Scotia, it's important to food security. It's also important to recognize in our communities the work of the food banks, and I work every year with Bernice Donaldson and her team as part of the Caring and Sharing Food Bank in Enfield. The numbers of families relying on food banks in our communities here in Hants County, Kings County, and across Nova Scotia have doubled in recent years. These are the working poor. I talked to a young single mother with a 2-year-old son recently hurt in Elmsdale. Her take-home pay per month is around $1,150. Her rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, she says it's hard to find anything under $700. The working poor cannot actually afford to buy groceries. They're relying on food banks. That's why we have to do less for the people who don't need the help and more for the people who need the help. And our plan would actually help her family. We also have to help low-income seniors. And reversing Mr. Harper's regressive decision to increase the age of qualification for GIS and OAS from 65 to 67 will put $30,000 per year back in the pockets of low-income seniors who need that money.
Thank you, Mr. Brison. Mr. Cooper.
I had a slightly different take on that question. I see food security as being much more about agriculture than food banks. I see it as being about support for our communities. During my lifetime, there's been a steady shift away from the sustainable family farm toward the corporate agribusiness as the dominant model. At this time, about 50% of Canada's food is produced by about 5% of its largest corporate farms. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that most farmers are now nearing the age of retirement. If we want food security in our region, we need to start supporting our farmers. More of the money we spend on food needs to be going back into our communities rather than into corporate bank accounts. To address this problem, the Green Party will provide funding to help young people enter into farming and tax breaks for small farmers and support for farmers markets and community shared agriculture, while increasing the corporate tax rate to 19% to make it easier for small farms to compete. It's time to elect a government that will not put corporate profit ahead of the interest.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
I took it as a food bank question, and I think it starts with caring, and I suspect that everybody in this room cares very much about the plight of the hungry. It was a pleasure to meet Bernice Donaldson. She's the chair of the East Bank Food Bank, as Scott mentioned before. Unfortunately, though, there is much too great a dependence on food banks, and it's growing, and it's a concern. I know in West Hants, 1,300 families in a relatively small constituency are dependent on the food bank. That is a problem. I think that the better jobs through economic development and education and apprenticeship, that goes away. But this is a real concern, and it's something that's concerned me both during the time I was in politics and now that I'm out of politics and possibly back in.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Mr. Curry.
Thank you. Other than some of the other parties, or any of the other parties, we actually have a food strategy. I'll leave a copy here for people if they want to see it, perhaps a few. And that covers the farm to fork, the whole area of the thing. Otherwise, in the local area, we need to be thanking our volunteers in Feed Nova Scotia who are out there looking after hundreds of people every week, perhaps thousands. I think perhaps on that level, Someday we'll have a guaranteed annual income in this country, and that would eliminate food insecurity at the family level. In the meantime, workers who work hard and play by the rules should be able to make a decent living. $15 an hour minimum wage is a start. It will help some now and will create pressure for provinces to follow suit. Alberta is already on the way to do that now. Farmer care will help by stopping the choice between meds and food. Seasonal workers need a strong and fair EI system. NDP will maintain the current level of premiums, but will enhance benefits and accessibility.
Thank you, Mr. Curry.